Hey physicists, just want to give you guys a little help on using Google Sheets to quickly make your graphs for the Stinky Feet lab. So I've kind of made some fake data here to help illustrate what we need to do. And a quick tip right off the bat, notice how this label is kind of cut off a little bit. It's not the right width. You could drag the cell the right width, or if you go to this margin between the two cells, or the boundary between the two and double click, it kind of makes it to the right size. All right. Another thing to notice right away is I have my data here, which you guys have a data set that's going to be similar to this, and I would drag this down, and I added a row for zeros. Because as we discussed in class, it's fair to say there's going to be zero frictional force if there's zero normal force. Another thing to notice is that I've changed the labels to be a better reflection of what we want to show on this graph. Okay, I've replaced weight with normal force, which happen to be the same thing in this lab, but normal force is a better way of describing what's going on with friction. And I've left these as generic kind of labels where you're going to want to put your actual shoe surface combination name in there. Okay, so went ahead and made a scatter plot graph, and there's some good things right away. It says now normal force on the x-axis, but there's some things that are not so great, like the title, and then really this key is a little bit cluttered too. So luckily it's smart enough that if you go back and change all of this, so we probably all we want to have in here now is like our surface combination. So maybe like Nike on tile. And when we update that, it'll update the label right here as well. And then for editing the title, we can do that right here, right? So when you go into, you're probably gonna be in the data tab. If you go over to the customize tab, we can go to chart and axis titles and change this to whatever we think makes sense for this. Okay. And then the other thing we want to do is add a trend line to this graph. So where we find that stuff, Mr. Meg is visiting me right now. All right. Where we do that is um, under series, and then you're going to hit trend line. Okay. It defaults to linear, which is just looking at this is a pretty good natural fit for this data. So we'll stay with that. We also want to click R squared, and what R squared is a number between 0 and 1 that really tells us how well our trend line fits our data. There's a little bit more to it than that, but we can think of it like that for right now. Okay, description of how well this line is a representation of this. The closer to 1, the better. So if you got something 0.9 something, that's telling you that line's a pretty decent representation of that, and it'd probably be safe to extrapolate or interpolate, like beyond the data points that we have using your trend line. Okay, so that's a nice thing to have. And then we can also, right here where it says label, we can add use equation. Okay, and it's going to give us the equations for all of these. And there it tells me the slope, if you remember from class, that's significant in the analysis portion of what you're doing there. Okay, so hopefully that gives you what you need to get really good graphs really quickly. Schultz out.